My name is Brina, and I play video games for fun. This is my Alhambra game. I'm starting off down in my mines. I'll work my way up gradually to the rest of the game. I'm starting off in this geode that I've mostly mined out. I'll eventually mine out the rest except for the blocks that have the small crystals growing out of them, because that's a renewable resource in this game. The crystals will grow back after you harvest them if you leave the blocks they're growing out of, and then you can eventually have as many as you want to gather. Now you can see the mine goes off a ways that way, and it goes quite a ways this way. This is my deepest level mine, which means it's a short distance above -60 level. When the mine starts to get big, I like to build a railway in it so I can more quickly get from one end to the other. Sometimes I build my mine straight out in a line, and sometimes I kind of mine out in different directions. Every game I do something a little different, which is part of what keeps the game interesting and fun for me. I wanted to start down in the deepest part of my mine because that's one of the quintessential parts of Minecraft. It's right there in the name, and it's where you get the resources and experience to build the things you want to build in this game. And here we're coming to another part of the mine and the stairway that goes up. Now I'm going to head up the stairs I've carved out, but let's divert briefly into this lush cave. That leads back to my mine down there. I was fortunate in this game to find a lot of lush caves early on because they are a good source for a number of things. There's a lot of clay in lush caves, which can be baked to make bricks and farm experience for leveling. There are a lot of other fun things in there. If you want to decorate with some moss or some of the vines with the glowberries, you can find a lot of those, of course, in the lush caves biome. You might be wondering why I've called this game Alhambra, which I'll explain in a few minutes. This is my mid-level mine we're coming up to. It's kind of in the middle of the underground areas near the 0 level. I like to make a mine at this level relatively early on in my games when I'm first trying to find diamonds. I also managed to delve into another quite extensive lush cave off of this mine. I was hoping to expand and find more resources, so I was happy to find this one. Whee! There's an axolotl. Love those guys. They're so cute. So I was happy to find this large, lush cave. It's really big. I haven't explored all the corners or the back side of the cave relative to where I first came into it. I have mined this pathway around through the deep slate to where it connects with a mine. You can see the beginning of the mine platform there sticking out into the cave, which looks really cool. I also dug into the bottom of this cave from the geode you can see down there, which connects back to my bottom level mine. I didn't even realize it was the same cave when I was first exploring it because the cave is so big. This is neat. I really like the chains holding up the planks. Well, not really holding it up because you can mine them out and it will remain hovering there. But I like the way those look. That's a neat design feature they included. This is just a little step up. It's another section of the lush cave. I haven't really explored that fully yet either, but I've explored it enough that monsters won't come and mess me up when I'm trying to explore the rest of the cave and the mine. They won't come from that direction at least. This is an extensive area of mine shafts. There are a lot of them that connect to each other, but I'm not going to run around it a lot right now because I can hear that there are monsters nearby and I don't want to get distracted fighting them when I'm supposed to be doing my tour video. I am, however, going to stick a couple more torches in this area just because it's a little dark here. I must have run out of torches when I was exploring down here before. Beep. Now I'll head back into that main cave area. You can see I haven't explored this part of the cave much yet because there are still railroad bits. And, oh no! A skeleton! Have to run away now. There's a lot back there I still haven't fully explored yet. There's a geode up there you can see, and skeleton still shooting at me, so I'm just gonna run away and not fall off that edge right now. Just gotta keep moving, which is good in a way. In a way, the skeleton is helping me. He's helping me be productive. He is a productivity skeleton, because that helps me stay focused and keep moving forward on my tours, so thank you, productivity skeleton. Alright, we're gonna keep moving here, keep going. There are a lot of endermen in this cave, too. Whee! I like those. I like the big drip leaves. Sometimes I like to just climb up on them and then fall off again. Yeah, there are quite a few endermen in here. Not sure why, but they're down there, so you have to use a little caution and make sure you don't look at those guys too directly. Coming up into another section of my 0 level mine. I don't come back to this level too much once I've got my bottom level mine established, but I do occasionally just for variety. Sometimes you can find different resources or find things in different concentrations. This is my first mine from this game, and I've put the bottom of it right at the level where you first start finding deep slate, because I want to be as far down as possible, because I think there are more resources there than at sea level, at least in this version of Minecraft. Then we'll head down these tunnels. I was at a place in the game where I had managed to find one mine shaft off of my deep slate level mine. It was decent sized, but I had managed to dig out all the resources I wanted from it, so I wanted to find another one. I started digging these square tunnels in almost a grid pattern. Not really a complete grid pattern. That was my initial thinking, but okay, that just goes back out. So we'll head this way. I was digging these, exploring, hoping to find another mine shaft, which I never did going in this direction. But I did eventually find some more caves. This nice little whee! It's fun to climb up the vines. I did find this little crevasse, but I think it's already explored here. Yep, already explored all that, mined all that out. So this is kind of fun. Gonna slide down these vines into this cave. There we go. That way I've kind of got a path mined out that connects back to my mine a little back that direction. And now we'll go back this way. I think this was the first geode that I fully mined out in this game. I wanted to gather a lot of the geode materials for building up above, which you'll see some of in a few minutes. Again, I've left the blocks the crystals grow on because you can move just the crystals and they will eventually grow back, but if you remove the block, of course, they're gone. So I've left those there for future use if needed. I've also mined out a big chunk here. I think I was just looking for a big pile of cobblestone. Down at this end is another large, lush cave biome. You can see another geode there I'm still working on. You can see I haven't fully explored this one yet either. There's still materials to gather on multiple levels. I just wasn't ready to gather those the last time I was here. Just going to put down some more torches here so when I come back for those things I'm less likely to get attacked by monsters. You can see it's very dark in the back of the cave, which means there are probably a lot of zombies in there. I've already fought a very large amount of zombies exploring that cave. You can see I've put lots of torches by where I entered the cave so I can find my way back to where I entered if I get disoriented while exploring and running away from skeletons. Now I'm headed back, and this seems like a good time to tell the story of why I called this game Alhambra. So I tend to play my Minecraft world with a certain idea in mind for each game, and then I kind of build the game and my structures in the world around that theme. In this one, my theme was inspired by the famous Spanish historical castle, the Alhambra. I feel like I should say here it's not an exact copy of the historical castle, just inspired by the idea of it. The Alhambra is known for having been used as a castle at some times and a palace at others. It's been a fortress at some points in history, it's been a dwelling for the very wealthy and the ruling class at some points in history, and now I think it's actually a museum. Put a window here in the underwater cave in case I want to try and explore that later. But to be honest, I still haven't totally got the hang of underwater exploration. But I wanted to be conceptually inspired by the Alhambra for this world because one of the things it's known for. It's very big. At one time it was an entire functioning city completely separate from the city of Granada, where it is located. It's been built onto throughout a lot of different historical periods, and it's very extensive, so there are a lot of areas in it that are interconnected but have different building styles and functions. It's so big and has so many different areas that, at least according to stories, you can get lost in there. Thankfully, because it has been made a UNESCO World Heritage Site and it is so important historically, they now have tour guides and guards to help make sure people can find their way back if they get confused. It seems like a really amazing place, and it's definitely one I'd like to visit someday. But in the meantime, I can happily play my Minecraft game and kind of be inspired by the idea of trying to have a big structure with lots of visually distinct areas that all connect to each other. So, gotta eat my potato. Then coming up here, this is where my first house was. That's my first storage chest over there, which I'm now using for storing fuel for my wall ovens there. I use those for farming experience and levels by burning things and baking materials that need to be baked. Here I've got the 3 different stages of making bricks. I've got a lot of different materials down here. Most of what I've mined in this game is stored down here at this point, so that's been fun. And you can see, if you hadn't guessed from all the mines and caves and underground areas I've already explored, I've done a lot of mining in this game because I have a lot of building I'm also doing, and I still want to add to up above. This world contains the largest series of completely connected structures I've done in any Minecraft world since I started playing Minecraft over 9 years ago, though I'm working on another world now that may end up rivaling it. Alright, we'll explore more tomorrow, but first, a good night's sleep. Okie dokie, now it's time to explore some of my outdoor areas, which you can see brief views of through the windows of my main castle keep here. I feel like I should note right now that where the bed is located in the main keep is within a couple blocks of where I first spawned. Now we'll head outside and explore some of the outdoor areas that I've been working on. When I first spawned here, there was a small section of regular oak trees along the beach, which have now all been cleared to make space for my construction and farming projects. Now I'm going to head out my second main entrance. You can see over in that direction, I've built several docks. I want to eventually have a section of dock built out of every type of wood. There's my enclosed harbor area, from which I can ride out in my little boats for exploration. Then I extended out my main harbor wall in both directions, but for now we'll take a look back at this view from what I've built so far. I'll hop up on these stairs and you can get a view from a higher point. From up here looking back, you can see my harbor and docks, my main cathedral, the main keep, and the front part of the tree and bamboo farming areas. Now I'll head back down. There's the bamboo again. You can see one of my dedicated tree farming areas is for the cherry trees which they added in the last big update. I managed to find some and I brought them back so I can farm the wood and foliage from those. I brought back some of the little pink ground flowers too and added those in this area just because they're pretty. It's just nice. I love the effect of the petals drifting down. It's very scenic and creates such a pleasant atmosphere. The next section of the tree farm is some acacia wood. I like to plant the trees in a nice grid so they're easier to harvest. I also just like the way it looks. I have platforms set up now with most of the currently available types of trees except the ones from the nether. This is my bee farm. I'm a little concerned because I haven't seen any of my bees in a long time and there doesn't seem to be new honey appearing in the hives. There's an ocean monument nearby and I think they may have gotten caught in the crossfire of the fishy guardians shooting at me. I may eventually build a wall downward underneath my bridge here in the hopes that will protect my farming area better, and then I can go find some more bees to adopt and breed. I don't know if that will actually block the guardians or not, but it seems like an experiment worth trying. Otherwise, I'll have to re-establish the bee farming area somewhere else. I put this chest here with all the items I need for bee farming. You can see I've got some honeycomb. I was going to build that up a bit before taking it back to my main crafting area. I've also got a silk touch pick so I can pick up my campfire without breaking it, and you can see the little coals that were left after I forgot and used regular one instead. I need to make a new campfire and bring it out here. Now you can hear off in the distance the sound of one of the guardians trying to shoot spells at me. Here I've got the spruce trees growing on this platform, and there's an empty platform for when I find mangroves. I haven't found any mangrove biomes yet in this world, but when I eventually do, I have that spot ready to grow some. That's one of my future goals for this game, explore till I find a mangrove swamp. Birch trees are growing here. They make a nice neat grid you can walk through because their foliage grows up a little higher on the trunk. This platform has my jungle tree farm. I'm experimenting with these ones, growing the giant ones by planting clusters of 4 saplings, like so. I want to try these because I was told by a friend who also plays Minecraft that the giant ones produce a higher amount of saplings per planted area. Also, as you can see, they produce a lot more wood than the regular sized ones. When I farm them with my regular method, I don't always get a replacement amount of saplings. On average, over multiple plantings it was enough, but each individual harvest hasn't always been producing enough saplings to fully replant the trees I chopped down. Looking forward to finding out if that works better with the bigger trees. And then coming around this way, this is my vegetable farm. Got a whole lot of beetroot. I will not be likely to run out of red dye. And there's more of my castle construction visible there. That's one of my wall sections, and here are my pumpkins, and my watermelons are growing next to them there. I like to plant a really big row of those just because I like looking at them. I probably don't need that big of a row, but it is fun, and when it's time to gather those, I can gather more of them more quickly too. I've got my potatoes over here, and my carrots. I've been enjoying potatoes a lot in this world, as in the real world. You can see I have some in my inventory now, but I'm not going to harvest those right now, even though I want to, because I am focusing on this tour. This is my main tree farming area for building in this world, which as you can see in all my fences and other things is the dark oak. Also, if I plant 5 or 6 of them, that seems to consistently give me enough saplings to replant them all. On either side of this entrance, I've planted some flower bushes to kind of make it feel nice going in and out, and over there you can see the beginning of my sheep enclosures. Now it's time to go inside and go upward. You can see in this indoor area that the sheep farming has been very important because I wanted to make it look a little fancier, so I put down some red carpets. This is my kitchen / enchanting area. I've got more storage in here to store food, some of the farm items, and items I want to bake in the ovens. I put some terracotta pots for decoration to go with the kitchen theme. This is where I'm storing my glass. It's very convenient to just take it out of the ovens after it's done baking and put it in these chests. I've got colorful glass, I've got regular glass, I've got sand. I've got a lot of sandstone too. I need to gather more sand before too long, since baking glass has been one of my major ways of leveling in this game. I'm storing my concrete over on this side. I don't have a lot of concrete colors yet, just what I've used for some of my tower roofs. Over that way is my cathedral themed building. Coming back this way, I just put these tables here to keep the kitchen theme going. I recently discovered barrels in this game, which has been a fun discovery, so I put a lot of those in here as well. I'm using them to store some of the finished food items. I can see one of my tall sparkly friends has been in here and has left me a dirt block. I don't mean literal friends, this is a solo world. I mean the Endermen. Sometimes they like to come in here and leave me little presents, and sometimes I just leave them there a while because I think it's kind of funny and cute. And looking down over here, you can see more of the sheep enclosures. We are looking into what will be the main courtyard of my castle once I finish the walls around this area. I've got a lot of sheep. In fact, I think I have all the different colors of sheep now that are currently available in the game. so I can have lots of different colors of carpet as this world progresses, and sometimes I actually just build parts of my structure with wool when I want colorful materials that look different than concrete or glass. So with all of my sheep, I'm well equipped to do that. I just need to clip and store up the wool. Heading up again now, there's a view down towards the harbor. You can also see the top of the cathedral. I've used magma blocks to light the top of it, which gives a nice soft moody glow. A lot of my cathedral materials are from the nether, so the magma lighting also fits with that theme. Going up again. This is my main castle keep, so I wanted to try something a little fancy, and I've made an attempt at parquet floors. You may have noticed I made the floor on each level from a different type of tree. Time to go up again. We'll eventually go all the way to the top, but I like to pause on the way up sometimes and take a little peek at the view as we get farther and farther away from sea level. It'll be a better view from the very top. Once we get up there, you'll be able to see how I've laid out everything so far. That's a view down toward my tree farm. And that's a view back toward the main entrance. And then off in the distance you can see how far my big bridge wall has gone. That's eventually going to go out into a Badlands biome that I found where I can mine lots of terracotta. This is just the inside of the roof on top of the main tower. Looking back down, you can see all my tree farming platforms, including the blank one where I'm going to grow mangroves once I find them. There's my long, narrow bamboo platform on the other side. There's the harbor again. I made a small guard tower there. I just left a little section of beach in that area because I like the way it looks. The bridge wall goes pretty far out that way, and I've got a lot more to build on it still though. When I spawned in this world, you can see I got bamboo forest and dark forest both there really close to my origin area, which has been nice. It's always convenient when you spawn in next to a lot of wood, although it carries a slight risk of daytime monster attacks because they can hide in the shadow of the trees sometimes, especially in the dark forest. You can see the grid of all the colorful sheep from up here. I like looking at them all neatly arranged. I find it very satisfying. That's my farm from above too, and all the tiny, tiny cows. There's my sandstone courtyard. We'll explore inside there in a little while, but from up here there's a nice view of that along with everything else. So now it's time to head back down. That purple tower was my first attempt in Minecraft at creating something like an onion dome, which didn't exactly turn out. It turned out more like a closed tulip and less like an onion. So that's a structure type to work on crafting more at some future time and try some different approaches. You can see off in the distance this way my exploration towers, which I use to visually mark areas I've been exploring. I might make a shorter video about that at some point. I got that idea from a friend who also plays, of using the towers to visually mark my progress and orient myself when I travel farther from my bases. Initially, they were really important for keeping me from getting lost quite as easily off in the wilderness, especially in areas where the landscape is more rugged and it can get confusing. That was before I realized you can actually use the F3 key at the top of the keyboard to tell you exactly where you are in the game at all times compared to the origin, which is near where you first spawn. So I spent years playing this game and not knowing you could do that and getting lost a lot. So the towers helped me with that a lot, finding my way back to where I started exploring from. Now we're back down at the ground level. You can hear all the animals again. I constructed this wall in such a way I can run inside it, which is kind of fun. Hello, sheepies. Though actually I've discovered I prefer running outside and jumping across the pumpkins. There's a different angle on the main tower / castle keep again. Looking up here, that's kind of a basic tower. It's one of the first ones I completed building in this Minecraft world. I love the sound it makes jumping across the pumpkins. It's a nice sound. Looking back that way goes back to my somewhat defunct bee farm. I'm going to have to figure out how to make that work better. Then we'll go out here. This is my enclosed railway. It goes out a ways here. It goes past my castle, and the first stop on it will be right next to my cactus farm. I've got all that set up so I can farm the cacti for green dye, so I can have more green building materials and green wool and things like that. Continuing on, I'm sure you've noticed that I built this structure with the cobbled deep slate. I put some of the fences on top of it with more lights, which serves the dual purpose of creating a post to put the lights on and also making the whole thing feel more castle-y to go with the theme of this world. This comes out here by where my first sand harvesting area was. In this case, I haven't harvested it a lot below the water level because I get really focused on digging and forget which blocks are next to the water when they're above my eye level, and repeatedly flood my digging area, which is irritating and also interrupts the digging. I've now dug out most of the sand here, so I'll need to find a new sand farming area, which is another one of the purposes of the giant bridge wall. I eventually plan to extend it to some other areas I found when I was out exploring. The Badlands with all the terracotta also connects to an extensive desert beach area with lots of sand in it. You can see as we roll by here, one of the Endermen has been in this tunnel as well and deposited a little dirt block. And let's go back this way. This area is actually outside what will be the main castle wall once it's complete, so I'm eventually going to enclose it more with a short wall of its own. I'm waiting to finish that till I've built up my green dye and my glass enough to have some green glass to coordinate with those, and maybe some green glazed terracotta as well. This tower isn't quite complete yet. I want to add on to it and make it taller and maybe give it a colorful top of some sort like the others. It's another one of the earlier ones I started with, as is that one over there. There are views from here down this way and then off into the dark forest, but for now we'll turn back into the main castle area. Yeah, let's go down this way. I left a few of the dark oaks and that mushroom and one birch tree in here because I thought it would be nice to have kind of a semi-wild garden area in this corner that matches with what the terrain originally was here when I started. And there's my sheeps again. And here's my entrance that goes into the dark forest. I was going back and forth through this area a lot in the earlier part of the game when I was still establishing my tree farming platforms, so I'm not using it as much now. I built it to look as much as possible like a portcullis, which is a kind of big wooden grate thing that was part of some historical castles that could be raised and lowered to let carts and larger vehicles in and out. It sometimes had a door like this in the middle for when they only want individual people going in and out. So it doesn't function exactly like a historical portcullis, but it does have a nice portcullis-ish look to it. Now we'll go this way a little, so we can get a look at the side of the tulip dome. Ah, one of them's been up there too. I don't think I'm going to leave that one because it kind of disrupts the appearance of the tower right in the spot where it's sitting. Just going to remove that. Yeah. There's a nice view of more of the sheep. And looking back at that area from up here, you can see another view of the whole castle as it sits so far. That's a nice view of the purple tulip dome tower. I used the amethyst I gathered from the geodes down in my underground areas to build that. It took the insides of 3 or 4 geodes, I believe. I really like the sound they make, the louder sound they make when they're being mined, and even the quieter sound they make when you walk over them. Just a faint little ding. It's nice. From here there's a nice view toward the main keep and a view toward the forest on this side. Coming back down this way, you can see some of the Endermen have been in this part of the castle too, and they left me a couple of presents. I'll leave those where they are for now. I think it makes a nice color contrast between the dark forest colors and the amethyst tower colors up above. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Feel free to share your opinions about what additional colors would best coordinate with the dark forest biome. Or any other biome. I'm open-minded about that. Another great view of my sheeps. Also, you can see the main keep from here. It's very round. Both types of forest over there. And there's the amethyst tower too. Now we'll head back down. Over there you can see my sandstone courtyard, which I've been thinking of as the turtle courtyard, for reasons that will become apparent in a moment. Let's just head over that way. Down here is my farming area for one of the best underwater lights for sea pickle. I just put down some coral I harvested with my silk touch pickaxe as a base for that. I just left the azalea tree there because it's nice and pretty growing over the water in that spot. You can see the foundation I've put down for what's eventually going to be a connecting wall between the larger wall sections on either side. That will complete this side of the main castle courtyard area. I'll probably build more different courtyards extending outwards, maybe some bridges that go to towers with different building materials too. But this is what I've got for right now. Now let's go into the turtle courtyard. I built it out of sand and sandstone. This turtle spawned over this way. When I first started, it had spawned on a little 2 or 3 block patch of beach, so that's its home beach, and I didn't want to remove that. I didn't want to close it off from the ocean or other beachy areas either, so I gave it its own entrance there. I also didn't want it to be vulnerable to monster attacks or get caught in the crossfire from them, so I built it its own little courtyard, so if it wants to stay in there, it can stay in there and be safe. And yes, I am aware that it is a video game NPC and it does not have thoughts or feelings, but around here we know a little anthropomorphizing is okay, so it gets its own courtyard. Over here is a trap that I built. I want to try and trap some drowned for scientific purposes, so that's going to help me with my very important research. I haven't succeeded in trapping any of them yet, but I have succeeded in getting killed by them a bunch of times trying to do so with earlier versions of that trap. So I've refined my trap design, but I haven't tested this version yet. And up ahead here is my cathedral themed structure. I've put some flying buttresses on this structure, which is an architectural element I was excited to be able to include in a Minecraft structure. A flying buttress, for anyone who doesn't know, is a type of arched building support that has some space between it and the thing it's supporting. If there weren't a gap, it would be a regular buttress. That's the front of the structure. It's really less of a cathedral and really more of a big hall that's styled like a cathedral, but he still had a lot of fun making it, and I'll probably do more structures of that type at some point. Here are my nether lights. You can see what I'm mainly using this space for besides housing my first nether gate in this world is storing materials that I've gathered in the nether. Now we'll head down and take a look at it from the other end. You can see I've chosen a color scheme for the windows and the carpet that coordinates with the pretty magenta of the nether gate. Now heading up on top, you can get a close-up view of the magma cubes I'm using for lighting up here. I could get an even better view if I hopped up on top of those, but I don't like the sound it makes or the health damage either. There's another view of the walled-in harbor area. I want to eventually add 1 or 2 large boats. They won't be functional as boats, but they'll be fun-looking. And now back down. Back down? Back down. There we go. And one more look for the full effect. Hi! Future Brina here, and I realize that there's one part of my Alhambra world that I forgot to tour on my Alhambra world tour, so I've paused the regular video to add that in here. Here I am in my house, got my potatoes, all ready to go. I realized when I got ready to start editing my footage for this that I showed the cathedral-themed hall where my nether gate is located, but I neglected to go through the gate and show the things I've constructed and areas I've explored inside the nether. So let's go have a look at those things as well. While I generally prefer to do my building in the safer environment of the overworld, there are a couple types of structures I like to build in the nether to help with exploring there and minimize the risk of losing all my gear. I've got a gold helmet so the regular piglins that are found all over the nether will not attack. The piglin brutes, which are the more aggressive piglins you find in bastion remnants, will still attack, but as long as you're wearing something made of gold, the regular ones will not, unless they see you mining gold or fighting the brutes. There are 2 types of structures I like to build in the nether. One is towers, like that one we just looked at, for looking out over the landscape. I also like to build a covered roadway so I can safely get around with minimal getting fireballed by ghasts or attacked by hoglins. I put an entrance in here every so often so it makes it easier to branch out and explore more of the landscape. Now you can see if you look out in that direction, there are a lot of ground blocks that are on fire. That's a neat trait of netherrack. If it catches fire, it just stays on fire, so if you want some mildly hazardous lighting fixtures, you can bring some of that back with you and make some, as long as you have a flint and steel for setting the fires with. The reason so much of the netherrack in this particular area is currently on fire is that it's a nice, wide, flat area with very little cover, which means when I was mining out there I kept getting shot at by ghasts with their fireball attack. So heading back down this way, the road is pointing northward mostly, and up ahead is my first bastion remnant that I've found in this game. Now I know the location of one bastion remnant, I can hopefully also find another fortress at some point by exploring north and south from this position. Down there is one of those little itty-bitty guys. They look angry, so I'm not going to go over there right now because I don't want to fight them at this moment. I've been told they won't attack, but I don't know. They look mad. But you can see from here that's where the bastion remnant is, and I've built my road right up to it so I can gather materials in there and look for treasure chests and all that fun stuff with minimal need for fighting mobs. Now I'm returning back toward my nether gate. I found a structure there I'll eventually explore more thoroughly along that same axis, hoping to find one or more regular nether fortresses. I eventually want to be able to spend longer periods of time underwater exploring and gathering materials, and I'll need potions for that, which requires blaze rods, and nether wart, which requires exploring nether fortresses. I don't love doing that. I usually like to enjoy my Minecraft in a more chill way, which is why I've progressed this far in my game and haven't done it yet. You can see there's Crimson Forest over there. This is one of my road entrances. And now we're back to my tower, so we can go up there in a few seconds and see what we can see. First we'll look out this way. Okay, so up the tower now. You can see this view in several directions from up here, with no risk of getting shot by ghasts. Over that way, a big cliff is visible with several different mobs hopping around on it, and over there you can see several lava falls pouring down. And you can also see where I've built little blocks around the bases to keep the lava contained, so when I go down there to explore I don't accidentally get in the lava and set myself on fire, because out here in the nether there's no water to put fire out with. And over that way is the first Crimson Forest biome I found in this world, which is fun. It's beautiful. Now, headed back down. Now we're going past the Crimson Forest. That one is a little tough because it spawns more frequent mobs, especially the big angry pigs, the piglins. Or hoglins. Hoglins are the big angry pigs. The warp forest can be too because there are a lot of endermen there, but I think I still like the forest biomes best of the nether, just because they're so nice looking and because I like all the different weird little plants and things that are in there. And I really like the shroom lights and the colorful woods as well. I'm excited I found those in this world pretty much right away. I haven't used any in my current constructions in this world, but I plan to eventually. I'll probably build 1 or 2 nether-themed towers attached to my main castle or out along the wall somewhere. So now it's time to... Oh, hi. Now it's time to head up this way, and hey, looks like that guy's gonna head up this way too. We'll check out the view from this tower also. Anyway, up we go. Yep, just sitting there in the corner chilling, like, what? I like to build these towers every so often too, so I can take a look out over the nether and see what might be off in different directions. I do have to be careful with this one though, because I built the stairs all the way up to the top of the roof. I did get killed one time getting knocked off of here by a ghast when I was building it, so that's something to look out for if you're building towers or pillars in the nether. If we look off that way, we can see all the little fires still burning, where I got attacked earlier in the game by ghasts while I was exploring that area and digging for crystals and gold nuggets. There are also all those little cyan blocks kind of spreading out from the warped forest. I like the warped forest. It's probably my very favorite biome in the nether, which is partly just because it's in cool colors, which I enjoy. Also the fact that it's in cool colors when most of the nether is in warm colors makes it feel different and interesting, kind of a relief visually. I get the same effect a bit from the soul sand and soul soil areas also. And there are always lava falls in the warp forests I've found. It's a really nice color pairing between the orange of the lava and the aqua colors of the trees and foliage and vines and the nylium and those sorts of things. Yeah, so my road just comes out here. This is the end of it for now. I plan to eventually build it further as I explore further, but for now this is good. I'm gonna just harvest that with this potato. A totally acceptable harvesting tool, the baked potato. I like this biome. I'm really glad I found one so quickly in this Minecraft world. Sometimes I leave the trees that are closer to my road and I don't harvest as many of those just because I like to look out and see them there. They look nice. You can actually replant them with mushrooms if you replant them on the nylium, which is what the ground blocks with the colorful stuff on top of them are called here in the Nether. I'll probably show that in a later video. You can regrow the warped and crimson stems from the mushrooms, but I'm probably going to set up an area for doing that back at my main fortress, where it's a little safer. So I'm just gathering some of the mushrooms to take back, and then I can farm my own crimson and warped stem wood without having to chop down too much of the forests out here in the Nether. So that's everything I've built so far out here in the Nether, and we can head back. You can see one of our tall friends over there with its little block, just standing in the corner trying to figure out what will be the best place to put it. And that's that, and we're ready to transition back into the regularly scheduled video. Now let's head out across the harbor. This is my wooden harbor watchtower we're coming up to, so we'll head up and check out the view from up there as well. From here, there's a little closer up view of the harbor and the port area with all the docks I've made so far. I want to add a few more of those eventually as well. Another nice view of the larger structures this way. And a nice view of that turtle as well. It is the second turtle I've met in this Minecraft world. I may eventually try to breed the turtles, but for now I just tried to make sure I leave at least a few blocks of unaltered beach here and there for them. And now, the sun is setting again, so it's time to rest. Awesome. Up and at 'em. Time to head out and try to finish our tour. Now I'll head back up to the main pathway, up to the big arch that marks the spot where I started building my big bridge wall in either direction. It's not exactly the midpoint because the wall doesn't extend exactly the same amount in both directions. I've got a railroad up here that goes out in both directions. That's one of my favorite Minecraft activities, is building railroads that get me out to different areas I'm exploring or structures I'm building more quickly. Now we'll head into this tower. I think of it as my Mario Tower because even though I wasn't trying to, it ended up looking like the towers at the end of the levels of the first Super Mario Bros. Game. Maybe it kind of got into my subconscious. Now it's time to head up to the top level of the next portion of the bridge. That gets a little hypnotic after a while. I want to eventually add another railway along the top here that goes out to my next tower, and eventually after that to the Badlands biome with all the terracotta and the desert biome next to it with all the sand, so I can get materials back and forth more quickly. The baked and dyed terracotta will make some really lovely construction materials for future projects. You know, courtyards, towers, maybe little decorations along some railways, that sort of things. Headed down this way, you can see I've started on another tower at the end of the bridge down there. I plan to extend the railway all the way through that and out the other side, though I may do the bridge itself in a different style after that tower. Haven't decided exactly what I'm going to do with it yet. Whee! I find that very satisfying. You can see I've started on this tower as well. I want to eventually have it feel like a nice fancy decorated gazebo type of thing with my crisscrossed arch domes stacked on top of each other. I've been waffling a bit on whether to add a third dome on top of the second one. Let me know what you think about that in the comments. I want to go for almost a Tolkien, Rivendell, Elven vibe with the decoration, but I haven't added any of the decorative colorful elements to it yet, or any of the lights I plan to add, so for the present time it looks a bit menacing. I might build a similar structure somewhere else and go all in on that vibe as well. Now I'll head back along the bottom of the bridge slash wall slash railway structure. The design I chose for this section of wall was kind of inspired by some of the historical Roman aqueducts with the 3 levels that gradually get a little smaller as they go upward. You can see I haven't finished this part of the bridge yet. I've been starting with just a very basic foundation pathway that goes toward where I want it to go, and then I'll add the frame of the structure on top of that, and then eventually I'll fill in the details to give it more of the complete look I want. Down on this end you can see I've started filling in the archways, and my intention is to eventually continue the archways all the way down to the dome tower that I'm working on. Let's just go underwater for a while here. That's always nice and calming. Now I'm bobbing along, back toward the main castle area. There's a little view of that tower that reminds me of Mario. I didn't intend for it to come out that way, but it definitely has that feel. I think it's the brick. The brick in the square shape is what's reminding me so much of that. I haven't decided what kind of design element I want to fill in there between the square tower and the harbor wall, but it'll most likely be some type of arch, in keeping with all the other sections of this big bridge wall. But for now it's just tall, thin pillars. Now I'll hop up here, and it's time to head down to the other end of the bridge. I haven't made as much progress down there as I have here. I haven't completed any towers down on that end, but I've got to start on one. Now we'll go zooming past my main construction area here. Little different perspective on that. Here we go. You can see the bamboo tops just sticking up there along that side of the railway. That's kind of neat actually. I might have to plant some more of those along the sides of the railway further on. That could be a fun way to break up the very long expanse of the ocean. This is the start of the next tower I'll be working on in this part of the wall. And down below here you can see I've built just the foundation portion of the bridge. I've chosen a different variation on the stacked arches for this part of the bridge structure. There's only 1 or 2 instead of 3 like it is down at the other end. I've got those from here all the way back to the main keep, and I'll probably continue with something similar for a ways at least out past the edge of the main wall once that's completed. If I build far enough this way, I'll eventually come to the landmass that I got the spruce saplings from in this world. There's a lot of spruce forest in some of the taller mountains and rocky coastline there, along with a lot of areas I haven't finished exploring yet. You can see along this portion of the wall, there's an underwater monument, an ocean monument, down below. There are a whole lot of the little guardian beings, which made the construction on this part of the bridge foundation a little tricky. They didn't kill me too many times though, just a couple. I want to eventually explore that monument fully and bring up a lot of the building materials from it. There are some different looking blocks down there. Oh my goodness, that startled me. Speaking of the guardians, I just got cursed by one of them. It's the slow digging curse. I forget what its actual name is, but it makes you go really, really slow when you're trying to dig or... Oh, mining fatigue. That's what it is. It makes you go really, really slow when you're trying to dig or mine anything, so you really want to try and clear out the guardians if you can before you try to mine materials from the underwater monuments. I have to admit, I haven't yet managed to explore any of those in any of my games so far, so that's a challenge to look forward to, hopefully, in this world. I've actually found a couple of different underwater monuments in this world. There's another one that's close to the spruce forest, along with a sunken village that I haven't really looked closely at yet either. I may build a barrier of some kind along the bottom of this foundation area to protect my main building area from the Guardians. Don't know if that'll work or not, but it's worth a try. If I could manage to build an adequate barrier here, then maybe I could try farming bees again without them getting zapped. I may have to fill in the arches on my bridge wall as well, which would be okay if it means more successful bee farming. Yeah, so that's about it. In this area, I've got the start of a tower here, a little mini base with a bed and a chest for storing my construction materials and a crafting table. I'll probably have mini bases like that in a lot of the towers as I go along. So we're back. That's about it. That's about everything I've constructed and explored in this game so far. I look forward to adding more things to it, some of the things we've discussed in this video, and whatever new things I might think of as well. Hopefully I can add more things fitting with my idea of being inspired by the Alhambra and other real-life castles. I want to add a lot more to my wall. I want to build more towers and courtyards and maybe even some smaller castle-style bases as I explore further out. I want to gather more different materials and incorporate them into the castle and the bridge wall as they expand outward. I like to orient my structures and place the bed so I can directly see the sunrise or sunset when I'm getting in and out of bed. I think since I've just got a short period of in-game daylight left, I want to see if I can get rid of that curse. This will just illustrate how it works. You can see my progress digging this dirt block is very, very slow. I know this method works with some of the other curses you can get in the game, but I haven't tried it with this specific one yet. I haven't actually had a pressing need to mine or dig anything within 5 minutes of being cursed with that one before, so we'll see how that goes. The next thing to do once I've got this block dug is I'm going to put my water in there, and then I'm going to come over here and get some milk from the cow. Oh good, that does work. That's good to know, good information to be aware of for the future. Now it's gotten late and I can head back in here. It's reaching the end of my in-game day and we've now toured all of my Alhambra world, so thanks for joining me for this video and for this time. Signing off for now, this is Brina Plays for Fun, and I hope you had fun too.